Oh, hey, Cotton.
Oh, Yomogi, I haven't talked to you in a while. How's it hanging?
Well, I finally sold enough Dungo to buy my new personal computer.
You're the what?
It has lights and stuff. It's really cool.
That sounds really expensive. How can you afford that?
Hey, running a business is hard work, and I charge you double.
Well, don't work too hard. You're a child, and don't think that'll stop me from hurting you for that last part. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, welcome one and all to a bit of a unique discussion here about something that may aggravate some people, but I ask you to come at this with an open mind. Is Monster Hunter better on PC? The long-form version of that question being, would the series as a whole be better off if the main focus of the developer team was creating Monster Hunter for the PC, and then the console versions were the afterthought, as opposed to the current situation where both 5th generation Monster Hunter games have first come out on a console and then had a delayed PC release. First things first, as far as delayed releases go, let's get the obvious stuff out of the way and say it would be ideal if every version of the game just released at the same time, and if there was a version of the game for every possible console, just so everyone could actually play the game without having to make any ridiculous purchases to do so. Now, why does this discussion even matter in the first place? Why am I bringing it up? Well, it's about growth. More specifically, growth in the right directions, because there will always be growth, but there are ways to have more growth and different growth. And this begs the question about what the right directions are for Monster Hunter. Now, Monster Hunter Rise is a great recent example because, well, there are only two real logical reasons that this game was originally released for the Switch as an exclusive. Firstly, Nintendo. I won't go too much into detail on this one because I don't have much detail about it in the first case, but, well, Nintendo definitely has the ability to put an exclusivity detail in place if they wanted to, and that may very well be what happened. Secondly, it could have been a decision to put this game on a portable system, quite intentionally, in order to split Monster Hunter releases between portable and non-portable systems, sort of going back and forth. In that case, however, it still doesn't really make sense to not release the PC version of Rise at the same time as the Switch version, unless it just literally wasn't finished yet or something along those lines. So let's envision a world where Rise releases simultaneously on Switch and PC. Hell, just to get the point across, let's say it releases on PlayStation and Xbox as well, day one, and that version looks more or less like the PC version does now. Would everyone be happy with that? Every single owner of the game, the people who own it for Xbox, the people who own it for PlayStation, the people who own it for PC, and the people who own it for Switch. Well, if the original reception of Rise was anything to take credence from, then no. People would be pretty annoyed, actually. Rise, undeniably, does not look as good graphically as Iceborne. That is a fact. Rise not looking as good is also totally acceptable to be under the knowledge that it was developed for the Switch exclusively, then later becoming ported to PC. However, when you dig into the more important question here of why, it becomes an issue again. Because why was the game developed for the Switch, then ported to PC? Was it because Monster Hunter is a better game on the Switch than it would have been on the PC? I don't think so. Sorry to any Switch fanatics, but the Switch is not a particularly powerful device. It is incredible that it can do what it can do as a handheld system, but that is about where it stops. It is uncomparable to home consoles. It is uncomparable to most PCs, and as a result, it would be ridiculous to think that Monster Hunter is capable of reaching its peak potential being developed for a system that is, to put it bluntly, years behind of the ones that focus on power over portability. Power that allows more intensive games, more intense physics engines, better graphics, obviously, but less on a pure visually stunning level and more on an accuracy to their vision level. While Monster Hunter Rise is amazing, I will firmly hold that Monster Hunter World is probably the closest that Capcom has ever come to fully realizing their dream for the Monster Hunter series. Rise is a bit of an offshoot. It takes a lot of leaps, it takes a lot of bounds, it takes what was built in World and it messes with it until it is almost a totally different thing. But World had that unbelievably living feeling, that world that felt alive, that none of us will ever be able to forget. And as much as it might seem obvious to say, that leap in the series that was Monster Hunter World was a direct result of being the first game in multiple generations to be on a proper home console, and thus have the benefits of the power of that system. Comparably speaking, a PlayStation or an Xbox is essentially a PC, a specific pre-built PC with a different operating system built for one specific purpose. What they are is good. But unfortunately, they are not great. You can get a console cheaper than you can get an equally capable PC, no doubt about it. But the upper limit of a PC's potential vastly outweighs that of a console as a result of their customizability. That said, a Monster Hunter game designed entirely with PC in mind as the main product would have the most potential to, well, be whatever the developers wanted it to be. Monsters that look as accurate as physically possible, breath attacks with hitboxes that are accurate to 1/10 of an inch, but still look like unstable, unpredictable, natural elements.
Hit me! Hit me!
Weapon attacks, monster attacks, physics beyond belief, and probably the biggest thing I haven't even mentioned yet, mods. The modding community for Iceborne was amazing from the very first week that Monster Hunter World released on PC. I had an amazing journey going through all of the mods released for the game. I'll never forget Thomas the Tank Engine Nergigante, yes, a fantastic example, but there were also just incredibly technical feats as well, as amazing as putting things like the wire bug into the game, literally the wire bug system from Rise and its movement into Iceborne. Entirely new monsters, essentially entirely new weapons. If you haven't looked much into mods, then you'd be absolutely amazed what this community has done. And, well, if the game were initially developed for PC rather than developed for a console and then ported to PC, it would almost definitely be more mod friendly, giving those who do the modding an easier time and thus leading to both more and better mods. On this specific note as well, it is worth bringing up that game companies have in the past even released mods on consoles that they were a fan of on the PC version of their game. There isn't a massive amount of precedence for this, but this video is about a world where everything is ideal, okay? Not one where it's very likely to happen. And in my mind, the ideal version of Monster Hunter is one that is able to put mods onto consoles to let every player of the series have everything that is possibly available to them in a Monster Hunter game. So with all of the positive that I have levied at the side of releasing Monster Hunter on PC as the main release, why isn't this happening? Why isn't even this really a consideration at all for Capcom? Well, honestly, the answer to this is the same answer to why Monster Hunter Rise considered its handheld release more important than anything else. Capcom, up to this point, has made its decisions based around the Japanese gaming market. PC gaming has really not been a thing in Japan for the better part of 30 years now, as console gaming really just took hold there quite hard. And in recent years, it has even further been pushing increasingly towards the handheld side of consoles as well. Hence, World and Iceborne being released to Xbox and PlayStation long before PC, and then Rise now being released to the Switch long before PC. So, given that, why am I lobbying so hard for PC being the main version? Well, the simple answer to that is that it's way easier to downscale something that is super high quality than it is to upscale something that's low quality, unless you're genuinely worried that the version of Monster Hunter that would be created for PC would not be able to downscale enough to work on a Switch after the fact. Capcom should make the best version of Monster Hunter they can on every release, then taper it back for the secondary releases for the consoles that can't quite handle it. Ideally, we could have a simultaneous release of every possible console version of the game at once, obviously, and it would be amazing. But in the world that doesn't happen, would you rather have a Monster Hunter built for the Switch and then scaled up a bit for PC? Or would you rather have a Monster Hunter built for a PC and then scaled down so it could run on the Switch? I know this can be a hard discussion for anyone who doesn't play games on PC, but I promise you this isn't some console war argument or anything like that. It's a discussion about what is best for the continuation of the series. What would allow Monster Hunter to grow the most from entry to entry? And in my mind, there is no real way that isn't achieved by having the best available technology to work from every time, and thus the concept that maybe the best version of Monster Hunter is the one created with PC at the front of their priority list. Not just for now, but for the future of the series to be able to work off of and grow as well. Hell, maybe I'm wrong. That is why this is a discussion. I'm biased, we're all biased, we're humans, and I am definitely not a game developer human either, just a human who talks to you through your screen. So let's talk about this in the comment section together. Tell me where I'm wrong, or tell me if you agree, but most importantly, be kind to each other, alright? It's just a discussion, it's just video games. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.